I'm a pure strategist.
Nobody's abiding to the rules anymore. They're telling on each other.
Anytime I want something, I have to think about, number one, what's my opposition?
That war for me was, how do I get people to change that way of thinking?
You as the talent, you can't be replaced. And that's just a mindset of saying that, wait a minute, I am the value. All I have to do is hire somebody to do your job.
And that's a program. Yeah. And that was a way of fighting a war.
Because we are in the effects of the impact of the wars that's been, waged on us for generations.
That's reality. War. So I understand this game because it's happening all the time.
Peace, family. 19 Keys. We back with another 19 minutes. 19 and Dame Dash. You know what I mean? Today, man, let's talk about war, the importance of war.
Well, war is important for change. If you don't like the way something is going, or if you think there needs to be a different way to approach things, and there are people that don't, or there's systems that don't, or if there's, a dream that you want to come true.
Right.
Life, to me, is almost a war. It's something that you're fighting for that you love. And unless there's a war in your life of some sort, what are you really? It means you have nothing to fight for. You know what I mean? So I pride myself in calling myself a general, and only because I've been through certain kinds of wars. Wars with myself first and foremost.
Self-wars.
Wars with for raising my children. Wars for business.
Family wars.
Wars for culture. Every single thing. Like when I load up to shoot a movie, I got to get my crew together, and literally I say we're about to go to war together for 10 days. And before you go to war, you have to know that when you get to war, the people with you are not going to cop out. Because when you find out on the front line that they're not ready and they just drop out, now you don't have anyone there. It's hard to prepare to get somebody there, and now you have to fight for two people.
Right. For me, it's like being a general in the aspect of being a war, being a soldier, right? So a general is a strategist, right? A strategist is not just somebody who reacts to everything that's happening, right? A strategist is somebody who has a philosophy and a plan for when things do happen.
An intention.
They take a step back and they look at the field, right? And then only after they know, the best way to gather their time, energy, and resources, then they can create a plan of action in order how to attack and what to do next, right? And so a lot of people in life, they're just constantly reacting to things. They're not a general, right? They're not sitting back, strategizing and planning a move, which requires a level head. Me, every single thing that I do in life, I'm a pure strategist, right? And so that's why I like information. If you tell me, something bad just happened, I don't care what bad happened. I just need the information so I know what pieces to move to salvage it or make the best out of it. So you thought this was a loss, and we'd be like, all right, now that I know what's in front of me, now I know what to do, right? So for me, it can be on tour and the speaker just said they can't come last minute. And it's like, all right, well, now this is an opportunity for me to do a monologue to where I can go out there and do something I've been wanting to do. I'm not about to sit there and, be saddened by the fact that they couldn't come or stress out over things that I can't change. You know what I mean? And so I'm always take a step back. Then I look at the playing field, say, give me all the information. The only time, a lot of times when I can't strategize clearly is when I don't have all the information, right? So I like to wait for all the information to come to me. So now I know what pieces I can move correctly.
Well, I've come to expect things never to go right.
Mm-hmm.
So things not working exactly the way you planned, you already know that's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you have to be prepared for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to pivot and adjust is important. And, you know, there's battles that come with war. And people think, you know, a battle comes with a win or a loss. It comes with a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if the battle puts you out the business where you quit, now you lost.
Mm-hmm.
But if the battle makes it to where you learn from it so that you can win the war, then it was a necessary step. Sometimes,
100%.
you know, you have to actually go and almost look like you're failing in something so you can learn from it.
Yeah, sometimes you got to lose the battle to win the war.
It's almost like in the street, you know, I don't want somebody, when I first start hustling, to hit me with a whole bird. Give me a pack because I don't want to mess up a whole bird.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take that battle and see what it messes up here and there. I don't get hurt too much. I learn from it so that I know how to sell the bigger picture.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
well, shit, that's that lesson of knowing, you know, not to want the right thing at the wrong time. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times you can get something that's good, but you get it at a time when you're not ready for it. And so when a person sometimes they be so anxious for success or something, they be like, no, give it to me. But it's like, can you handle it? The strategist it's like if you got a artillery, you offering me and I'm gonna go to war, I might be so anxious, I'm gonna take the biggest gun, but that's not even what I need in order to win this war. You know what I'm saying? I might need to I gotta think about the actual battlefield. I gotta think about my opponent. I gotta think about what's gonna give me the advantage, and then I gotta pick from there. I gotta think about who I am, and that self-awareness allows you to know what's the best weapon and what's the best plan of action.
So what you're saying is the thing culturally that we don't do. And we have to understand that the people that are winning the war are the people that are prepared the most for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason for all the program. That was a strategic person making a plan that's lasted for hundreds and almost thousands of years, just meant to control. That was strategy. So one of the most important reasons for being strategic is the people you're fighting against are being strategic. Mm-hmm. And unless you're being strategic, you're not even in a war.
No,
you're just in defense mode.
That's a fact.
You're just in reaction mode. And if you don't know what you're fighting for, you don't know how to fight. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we have to identify what our personal war is, whether, again, is it business, is it personal, is it cultural, and then figure out how to get to the finish line, how to win. And understand, like, you know, when you fight, if you brace your face because you know a punch is coming, it doesn't knock you out. It doesn't hurt you as bad. So you generally want to know and be prepared to know when a punch is coming and be prepared for it to land, but just know you got to hit back. Mm-hmm. But if you're not looking and you don't see it, that's the one that knocks you out. Mm-hmm. And that's usually what happens, because if you don't know what direction you're fighting and who you're fighting and punching, it could come from anywhere.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're on the floor.
Yeah.
So if I know what direction I got to be at, where my back needs to be, where I don't need to be backing up, where I need to be pushing forward, and what I need to be going to get, then I can not only focus myself, but I can focus other people. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I call it the dream team. When people know each other's war, which is their dream, because dream is war, and people think when you say dream, it's, you know, nah, dream is war. Mm-hmm. I dream of peace. You got to fight for that.
That's a fact.
I dream of money. You got to fight for that. You dream of power. You have to fight for that. There is nothing that's worth anything that you don't have to fight for, that you don't have to go to war for.
Yeah, nothing that's worth anything, because somebody else wants that as well.
But you got it exact. So if you were fighting for the same thing that someone else is, but y'all both fighting for different reasons, one's fighting for good, one's fighting for bad. The one that's fighting for bad because they're usually not as strong and they want to cheat, they're being more strategic.
Right. And you know, when we talk about things like love and things like money, this is energy. So in that sense, when people try to wield things, they're pulling energy. They're trying to magnetize the most valuable things in the world. It's like going after the most beautiful woman. Everybody wants her, right? So everybody trying to pull her. Literally, that's what we say in the game. You're trying to pull her. You pulled her, right? Because you're trying to wield that into your energy, into your field. So anytime you have something of value that you're trying to pull, you're fighting against the tug of other will, right? And so the one who wins, who has the most energy or the greatest way that goes about getting it done. And so anytime I want something, I have to think about, number one, what's my opposition? So I know how much pressure to apply for that which I want. Then I have to know myself, am I ready, to go through the full war in order to get it done? So with self-awareness, you will know how far you're willing to go for what you want. Because everybody's not willing to go the full mile to win the war. So the war is always won before it starts. Because it starts in the mind, then on the battlefield.
Mm. And also, if you're going to take something, it's different than when you're defending something. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, somebody's coming to get me, that's a war. But when you want something and you know you need it, it's an aggressive, offensive kind of a situation.
Right. And you got to know how your enemy play. It's like,
that's what I was going to say.
Somebody like 50 Cent, right? Like if you people look at it like you get into it with 50 Cent, he has a reputation for going the furthest and willing to go the furthest and not stopping. So somebody else that's not willing to go the furthest, you know what I mean? That same level and extent that he is shouldn't get in the war with him. Because they may think that, okay, I'm going to do this and that's going to be my win. And he may be thinking, I'm not going to stop until I win. Or I'm never going to stop because that's my strategy. So other people know as a warning to them, don't get into war with this type of fighter.
Well, that's what the street rules are. You make examples out of people. Mm-hmm. But for me, a lot of the times the people that I'm fighting, they don't fight fair. Mm. And I know I'm fighting a war against cheaters. And that is the art. It's not dumbing your energy down. Because for me to win the war, my W is to play fair. Some people think cheating and going against moral fabric and violating your friends to get where you got to go is a W. And in some cultures, that's accepted.
They say all is fair and love.
But war. For me, it's not. It's just like hustling. Like, if you snitch to get out, you're done.
Does that automatically means that certain wars you have to lose?
It means certain wars you have to fight different. Or certain wars, if you know someone's going to cheat, then you don't play. Mm. That was one of the reasons why I got out the street. Because it was like, nobody's abiding to the rules anymore. They're telling on each other. Friends are telling on friends.
That's a fact.
So it's like, I'm not going to play this game because it's with cheaters.
Right.
But when you go into war and it's for good and you have to go, you don't have a choice. Like when you have to pay bills for your children and when you have to make sure your economic environment is friendly for everyone that you love so that they don't have to feel any pain, you don't have a choice. But when your competition cheats, you just have to me, be better. And that's when you have to be strategic. And that's when you have to create your own lane. That's when you have to create your own way to win, which is important.
Right. That to me gets to the idea of like war games.
It's all war games.
And simulation of war. Because a lot of people, and that's thinking ahead like, all right, you playing game theory. How do I make this a win-win? Or how do I make this a lose-lose or a win-lose, right? And in those scenarios, when you see cats in the streets where, if you don't play out the scenario, okay, if you put this person in this situation, right? You as a general, whoever leading is supposed to know how far this person is going to go. Not from what you feel, you're supposed to test that soldier to know the limits, right? So therefore, you have a psychological profile on everybody that you with. And you just think about all of the different scenarios that can happen. So don't lead your people into a situation where they're going to break. Because that's on you. Because you've expected more out of soldier than they was ever ready for.
Well, that's that thing going to war and they quit on the front line and what you going to do after
right.
That. Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm going to war, I'm definitely going with tested people. Going with new people that I don't know how we're going to react under certain situations. And I'm not talking about physical war.
No.
Because we've been...
I always think about, not to cut your wisdom, but I just think about what's the worst scenario and how do I get the best outcome?
Well, what I'm saying is, when we've been programmed to think war is a physical thing, mm-hmm. and war is not. You can win a war by changing the way someone looks at something. Mm-hmm. That was the war I was fighting. My war that I was initially fighting was, people thought that when I said being independent, that was taboo, that I was wrong because they were programmed to think that they should be dependent on another culture mm-hmm. or not exist. That war for me was, how do I get people to change that way of thinking? Mm-hmm. And I had to be consistent. I had to lead by example. Me telling people to be independent meant I had to be independent, and being frustrated with people because what I find is people that say really dumb things can say them so confidently that people will actually believe it.
Yes, a fact. That to me goes until we in a place where everybody in their feelings, right? So, you know, the silent weapons that they use now is how to emotionally manipulate and control people, right?
Well, they've been doing that.
So, you know, it was I think the documentary is called Silent Weapons, Invisible War, or something like that. And it was just talking about how the weapons have changed, right? From physical artillery to concepts and ideas that they plague on the people. So it's the demoralization of a society. So if you get a society that no longer has morals, no longer patriotic to, you know, the establishment, then you can feed them anything that you want to, and they're going to hate the truth. Even when they hear it, they won't be able to accept it. And it says it takes 14 to 25 years because that's how long it takes to program 2 generations. So what we're in the effect. Somebody was writing the other day, I was writing something on my brother Shabazz post, and the woman said, when are men going to stop using those as excuses? And I was like, that's not an excuse. That's an effective psychological warfare that most men are at today, because we are in the effects of the impact of the wars that's been, you know, waged on us for generations.
Well, you know, when you oppress a culture and you wipe out their history, you wipe out their religion, you make them uneducated because they're only worried about survival.
Right.
And give them either the opportunity to be a paid slave or work and do something they hate, or break a law and go to jail.
Right.
And it takes years to do that to a person. But, you know, again, I went to this kid's prison and I saw the process of breaking a kid down, getting him hooked on drugs, making sure that he's incentivized to get out by taking the drugs, not by reading. Giving them a diploma with a 4th grade education, and then wonder why the recidivism rate is so high. You don't wonder why.
Right.
You know, it's all private sector.
And keep the parents out of the household because they're so busy trying to survive. They don't have time to raise them.
Well, then that comes into the disenfranchising of the families.
Right.
So, you know, you put drugs into a community. You have people killing each other, fathers killing fathers, leaving mothers to raise their children, meaning they got to go to work while somebody else watches their children. The people that are watching their children are going through shit, getting abused, so they're abusing their children. And it's a lot of our children being raised not by our parents or their parents, but by people that are actually traumatized. And the streets become your parent and all the problems that come with it. And that's a program.
Yeah.
And that was a way of fighting a war. This is how we're going to fight this war, of keeping strong people thinking they're weak. Make sure they don't have parents, keep them drugged up, uneducated, and make them fight each other.
Right.
And that's a war.
Yeah.
That was a strategic war.
That's a fact.
Didn't have to throw a punch. In this war, they programmed us to actually fight each other. That's how good the program.
Well, yeah, we used to fight the system. Now it went from fuck the police to fuck them niggas.
Let me just tell you, when I hear different interviews about these conspiracies against me and the people that are coming together to stop me from evolving financially, they're all black. And they're all working for somebody white. All of them. Every single one of them that conspires to keep me down is empowered by another culture. They actually get benefits from holding down the real ones.
Yet you remain one of the most impactful voices that our generation actually wants.
Well, that's karma. The more they push me into fighting, the more people see me fight. And I'm a good fighter. So I don't mind a fight because I'm prepared.
Right.
Mentally.
As Minister Farrakhan said, every knock is a boost.
100%.
They think they knocking you down. They actually lifting you up.
Well, every time you can show someone how strong that you can get back up and win, it empowers other people to do so. So the fact is, they tried to make an example out of me. You independent, we put you out of business and you out of here, and you're gonna read about them or hear about them in some messed up unsung documentary. That ain't me. You could get all your crew, fight, and shut down all the roads that were created in that way, and I'm gonna create my own.
Right.
Eloquently, my family won't be affected, and I'm still here. And it empowered people to know that they can still be here. It gave me more time with my family. It made me depend on independence. You know what I mean? So I was there the other way.
That reminds me of, you know, recently we talked about the baby going through, you know, he was blackballed, where they wouldn't allow him to, you know, tour, wouldn't allow him to get the media coverage that he was getting. You know, everybody was hands off, don't touch, you know, and his strategy was, I'm going to continue to build through it. You know what I'm saying? That I'm not going to lay down. And a lot of people, when they faced with that adversity, it makes them fold because of the pressure, the stress, the anxiety. But they don't realize that there's always another way. So it's like mainstream media might not get you, but you can still shape your own narrative. You know what I mean? And if you allow them to shape your narrative, then you have to go with the effects of what their narrative is created for in the first place. But if you create a counter narrative, now you can go through independent outlets, get your voice heard. Now your narrative is combating the mainstream one. So now you can use that as your PR to push your movement back into the spotlight.
Which is, independence is the right approach anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, when you're in a position where people have to hire you, then yes, you have to worry about people hiring.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful of what you say.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can have your own, if you're hiring you, then you can't fire you.
Right.
Because most of the things that you think people are bothered about, you know, in the press, they're generally not.
No, it's because the press tells them to.
But corporate can't publicly co-sign something that is
public perception. It's
public
not
perception.
correct.
But generally,
PR is just propaganda. It's manipulation.
Yeah, people are a lot more forgiving than you think of a mistake. And they forget.
Because everybody is human, so they think about the time they made a mistake and wanted forgiveness. So anybody that makes a mistake, you know, all you have to do is put a mirror up to the public and be like, haven't you made one too? And when you can get people to empathize with the fact that I was human and made a mistake, which is equal to the one that you've made, then it absolves you of your wrongdoing and allow them to say, I'll give you another chance.
And if you turn your own lights on, no one can turn your lights off.
That's a fact. And creating your own value is hiring yourself. You know what I mean? So like when you are valued, there's always value for you. So it's like, let's say somebody like him, you know what? It's like, I'm going to put out these freestyles and I'm going to prove I have value because I have a community. I'm going to do my own show sells out. How wouldn't you want me on your bill? Right? So now all I have to do is keep strategizing, putting out my own PR campaign. Now I have all of those things that you can go to and say, you know what? We need to write him a check because it increases our bottom line. Right? It doesn't make sense that we continue to not work with this person. And so the power of the gatekeepers is no longer, you know, the end all be all.
Well, that's the thing. If you recognize someone as the gatekeeper, then they are the gatekeeper. I don't let you say you nobody's gatekeeper.
You got to keep your own gatekeeper.
I'm your gatekeeper. You know, you're not my gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So again, you have to control the narrative, but with controlling the narrative comes the action. You can't just say you're a general. You can't just say you're a boss. You can't just say you have your own if you don't.
Right.
You have to have the infrastructure and be savvy enough to do things on your own and be able to generate without somebody hiring you. If you have a product, then it's for you to sell it yourself, even if it is yourself.
Right.
So again, I'm not going to wait for a promoter to hire me if a promoter and they're all going to say, okay, we can't because you did something, made a mistake in public. Then I'm going to just start promoting my own shit.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, we only letting someone else promote us because we don't feel like doing the work. But if we promote it ourselves, we get more of the money. We get the lion's share.
Yeah.
So independence comes with a hassle.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes God wants you to be independent so bad that he puts you in a position where all that thing you're dependent on gets taken from you.
Right.
Whether you like it or not. Now, in that moment, you might not like it, but it's the best thing for you. It just means war. Now you got to work hard and fight to get where you got to go to get that W on your own.
Right.
And depending on people is no bueno. And that's what we as a culture are taught to do, to depend on them to take care of us.
And to look at the workers as bosses.
Every time you see a white woman adopting a black kid, that shit is news. When a white woman adopts a white kid, they don't say shit.
Yeah.
And you'll never see a black man or a black woman on TV or a picture.
And their kids always look crazy
adopting a white kid because they gotta always look like they saving them.
Yeah.
So even when I went to Africa, to Ghana, and there's orphanage, it's still a white woman that's running the orphanage in Africa.
Yeah.
So they still looking to them for help.
But that's that savior complex, and that's why a lot of people don't take advantage of
That's
reality.
a strategic war.
We don't. A lot of that's why I say we look at the workers as bosses. Those people that you work with that do some PR for you, or they may do, some tour shit for you. Those are not the bosses.
Nah,
Those are people in the process that can be replaced. You as the talent, you can't be replaced. And that's just a mindset of saying that, wait a minute, I am the value. All I have to do is hire somebody to do your job. Right? And this is why they keep people in low economic positions, so you can't replace the people that is perceived to be a boss.
Well, they keep you
so you can become your own.
They keep you stupid.
You know what I'm saying?
They make it where, like, that's the thing, like an artist
that's lack of access to information.
Exactly. So an artist that has $10 million in the bank no longer needs a label.
Mm-hmm.
They can now hire every single person that the label can hire, but why don't they? Because they're programmed to think they still need the label. It's not about the money. It's about the emotional support and actually having to do the work. All you got to do to have a label is know how to do a show, know how to record, know how to mix, know how to shoot a video, know how to pay for marketing, radio support, and so on and so forth. I can do that shit, and anyone can do that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But you're programmed to think that you can't. You're taught to think that it's harder than it is, and taught to think that you need them for validation. But once you understand that when you won't fight for their agenda and you have to do it on your own, you find that it's a better life.
It's way better. And just with that idea, we talk about strategy shit. If you're an artist, you can create your own media channel, like a hip hop channel, right? So let's say I'm an independent artist and I find some talent and I want to put money behind them so that they got their own hip hop show that becomes a mainstay in culture, right? So now anytime I got a single or something dropping, guess what? I'm going to one of the shows I own. I'm not on the front end of it. I'm on the back end of it supplying. Now, if you put out 5 to 10 to 20 shows, right, and a few of them become a hit, now you can do a media run on your own press, the media that you own. So a lot of times people got this money to be sitting. You can go buy the chains, the cars, the vacation, but when you employ your money, it works for you.
Well, that's because people don't know how to spend their money.
Right.
And that's because no one will give them the turnkey based on experience.
And they don't.
And that's the problem.
And that's why I wanted to chop some game up, because they don't need, like,
well, that's
education is the greatest shit today, because if you give somebody the game, right, they can create their own rules and they say, this is my stadium, this is how the players play, right? And take that same revenue model of existing systems and create your own.
That's been my attitude from 52 for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
And this is what I've been saying for the last.
But you've been I ain't gonna say you've been ahead of your time, because I feel like at all times you could have done it. Today is just the easiest time to do it.
Well, I can say this. What you're saying may sound prolific to us and to our culture because we ain't heard it before.
Right.
But this is old news to the other culture. This is what they do.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's a standard.
It's a standard.
Like, they would never come to the black community and be like, I'm going to need y'all for my success.
Right.
Unless you're talking about a consumer.
Exactly.
But when it comes to one of them becoming a pop star, movie star, or whatever fundraising, they ain't going to, you know what, I need the black community to see me a certain way. You know what I'm saying? I need them to respect me. Right? Hell no. We don't have enough producing power, right? We have a consumership power, which is not power at all. But it is a power if you say, I'm not going to consume, right? And then you dictate the terms.
Well, we spend the most money because we have the least amount of equity in, like, the things we own, like real estate. So we have to spend things that don't cost as much to pretend that we have things that we don't. Which is the reason for names and designers and this, that, and the third. You know, culturally and socially, everybody does it. But for us, the most economically oppressed, the only way we can showcase our wealth is to buy material things. And I'm only saying that to say that's why we are the biggest consumer.
Yeah.
Everything is like a bodega. Instead of going to a supermarket, we'll spend a little more to go to a bodega because you only buy one thing at a time instead of buying a big bag.
That makes us a very feminine culture.
It makes us very, very worried about what people think, which is very feminine. Yes.
And because it makes us receivers instead of givers, right? The producer is giving, right? So everybody else creates a culture. Their culture is around giving. That's masculine. Like, we're going to produce it and then give it to you. Even the protection. we'll protect your culture. You know what I'm saying? As long as you don't do this to us.
We'll make you do it, give it to us, and we'll sell it back to you. That's what happens.
Right.
Like you do the work. Because to me, every single thing, when we uncover everything, like I was on a meeting with my man in London that's doing something with Bentley and Rolls Royce, and I found out that I feel like it was the Jamaican culture that saved Rolls Royce. And it was like, damn, every single thing, I forgot. I can't even articulate it right, but I will.
Yeah, it gave me a good style.
Yeah, I'll give you a good story. I'll give you a good one. I know again, it was like, damn, that too?
Yeah.
It's almost like everything when you look under the hood comes from us.
Yeah.
Idea and physical production, but the credit is always going to them.
Yeah.
And because I'm a man that thinks forward and has ideas before most, I am a guy that people try to pretend or take the credit for the things that I do by making me look like a bad guy.
Right.
So I understand this game because it's happening all the time. Not mad at it because I don't take it personal, because this is what happens. The algorithm of history is the good guy, the guy with the truth. People always try to take that person's truth and take credit for it. Mm-hmm. It's part of the game. Cheaters cheat.
That's a fact.
So I'm never taking it personal.
But see,
sometimes
that's the beauty of truth speakers today. We get to, number one, we got evidence of it.
The younger generation is ready, bro.
But I'm saying we got evidence and documentation, and you create the marketing around it to where you said, I'm the thought leader in that space. There's nobody else that you can put to say this was their idea. I have full documentation, and I'm going to do it so consistent that it's connected to me. So even if you try to take it as your own idea, the people will tell you, you must have got that from so-and-so. Right. And so like that's part of the strategy of making sure
that's why
that regardless of what they do, you have your own war that you're counteracting because you know how the system works. Like, I don't think there's nobody from the top to bottom that's ever detailed the way the system works, but we don't do it in a way where we're strategizing. We do it in a way we complaining.
Well, what we don't do is we don't stick together. And that's why it's important that guys like you and I that are both doing well when we're not in front of each other can come together and figure out how to do best.
And we got to call each other when we having good days and not bad ones.
Well,
I called you, I'm having a good day. Let me call Dane.
Right.
Most people, they down, so the energy is desperation from the relationship. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather call you, man, the check just cleared. Who can I call while I'm in a good mood?
Let's get some more money.
Now I'm fostering a relationship based on that productive energy, right? Versus what can I consume from you? What can I take from you? Right? What can I give to you? What can we build together? That's a different kind of energy. I call people on building energy.
Well, that's because you're confident in what you bring to the table. So again, it's not like it just happened for you. You out there putting in the work. You know, again, when you say, yo, I just went on tour, I'm like, yo, I just went on tour too. We're both outside fighting for the right fight for the same kinds of things.
Yeah, the gods is outside.
Yeah, you gotta, you gotta take a good word that people aren't gonna distribute because they're scared, and you have to hand deliver it yourself. So you and I both know what it is to be a truth teller, to say things that make other people uncomfortable, especially those that are repressing us. Then they're gonna try to shut the doors. And you can't shut the doors. We coming outside.
Right.
Like, and we're gonna hit you any way we can.
I was just on Telemundo.
So like that's the war. The way you fight your war is you out there.
Yeah.
You're hitting them on every single platform that you can, every single day, all day. Those are punches. Every time we do a segment, that's a left hook, and that's a jab and a right, and then it turns into pulling out the hammer. Because everything we're saying, according to our war, is knocking all of them down with mental, verbal, or mental, intellectual bullets. These are knowledge bullets we're hitting you with. We're hitting you with a different kind of war, a different kind of artillery. And again, we're telling you this. Expect this, and also expect to pivot, plan for it, and also, now that you know, there's no excuses.
For me, life is about the doors you can open. So somebody is always going to have a door shut for you. This media platform doesn't want you over here. Okay, which one does? That's the open door. And for you, it's always, do you get tired because it can be 30 doors that's closed in front of you that they won't allow you to have a key to open? Or do you keep going and finding the doors that you can't open? Whether you're opening for yourself, whether you're building your own door, or whether you're finding somebody who will welcome you in. And so for me, no matter what it is, I always find a strategy. Okay, that door is closed, but I know there's a door that's open, right? I haven't had major black media, but okay, what about the Latino media? You know what I'm saying? How come I haven't tapped in over there in that resource? So for me, I always found, yeah. Call me Yave. That's Keys, man. You know, Big Keys.
Okay.
Grande Yave. That's what they say.
Grande Yave.
Pause. But that's the energy, man. F.A. Keys in the building. I don't allow nobody to make it seem like they door is the only one. You know what I'm saying? And even in my own here, like if something that I have didn't work, all right, what is the key to the next door that I can open? Because there's always a way. And strategy is always finding a way, right? It's never accepting the, the impossible, accepting this as the only way. I'm going to creatively think about another way things can get done. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to calmly analyze, right? And I'm going to say, okay, what is the best way to go about doing it? And when you maintain a stoic mindset where you go through the worst things with a calm mind, then that's when you have the ability to be consistent in the way that you think through things so nothing throws you off. And that's 19 minutes with Dame Dash, 19 Keys. Every time I wear my crown, I feel recognized. Not recognized like a celebrity. I feel recognized like you know who I am. And you know what this means. And it can't be taken for nothing other than what it really is. It represents my position in this world. It represents I know who I am. And you do too. When I wear my crown, I feel like a general. I feel like a god. I feel like I'm winning the war every single day. Crown is empowering. It lets me know that I am in connection with self, and it lets you know not to play with me. So I'm not one of them. I am him.